We really do look lovely today.
We
though.
do.
We are the blueprint of ballroom, the gold standard.
Said you wanna be a legend. A statement, a star. Said you wanna be a legend. A statement, a star. I'm so, all I really wanna be is an icon or a statement. No, it's legendary. I'm so, all I really wanna be is an icon or a statement. No, it's legendary. Legendary, legendary. I'm legendary, legendary. I'm legendary, legendary, legendary.
Welcome back to The Let Out, a legendary podcast. I'm your host, Mikelle Street. We're now 4 episodes into season 2 of Legendary, and the chops are finally out. This week's houses participated in the 7 Deadly Sins Ball and competed in 2 categories. In the first, each team featured spins and 1 member in head-to-toe overness. Overness is like best dressed. We're talking sparkles, jewels, and anything else that glimmers. During the category, the judges were in dispute over whether the House of Milan's performance seemed greedy enough. For the second category, 1 person from each house competed in All-American Runway. The judges ended up chopping half the houses in the category, which was kind of funny, but also pretty sad when you think about it. Side note, if you're like me, you are living for Jamil Icon's dainty and soft catwalk. Could have watched it all night. By the end of the ball, it was a tie between Balenciaga and Garçon for Superior House. Normani, this week's guest judge, chose the House of Balenciaga for the win, and in the end, sadly, the House of Milan was sent home. Here today, we have mother Jocelyn Milan and Maleek Milan from the house that's apparently greedy, but not too greedy, to tell us how it all went down.
I am Ballroom.
We are a tight family. We bring sophistication, class, and first and foremost, fashion.
What's up, Maleek?
What's goody?
Hey, Jocelyn, what's up?
Good afternoon.
Welcome to The Let Out. It was quite the ride, but we're 4 episodes in, and you guys were on through the episodes just because of how things sort of divvied it up. And I wanted to start sort of going back to the beginning of the show. In the first episode, you guys did Grand March, and it was all about showing who you were. So I wanted to ask both of you, like, what did you guys want to show that Milan was in that moment?
That Milan was the gold standard and still is the gold standard.
It's pretty simple, pretty to the point. Is that like something like a phrase that you guys sort of use even with outside of the show, or has that come from somewhere specifically?
Well, no, we never used it prior to the show. When we were thinking about the Grand March and trying to figure out how we're gonna be able to display to the world what we're all about, we came up with, the idea of the Wiz and how they kept on changing the color during the movie and the play. And when they got to gold, we felt like it was just so spectacular. And we were like, you know what? That's how we should represent ourselves. Like, we are the gold standard of ballroom because we are. Whenever you hear a Milan hitting the floor, everyone stops getting their drinks and going to the bathroom, and they actually do pay attention to the runway. Unlike, when some other people walk or whatever. But when you hear Milan, people pay attention. And we do have a standard to us. Like, we carry ourselves with a certain flair. We always dress nice, and we carry ourselves with a certain regard.
And dignity.
Yeah. So you guys got really good feedback from the judges on your first performance, which was really, really great. And so for the second week, you guys came back, and the category was Best Dressed as a House. And you really came as sort of my disco dreams. I really loved the looks for the second week. The judges also basically kind of loved the look in general, like the idea behind it. And I just wanted to sort of hear a little bit from you guys about your connection to that theme and how you came up with that idea and just putting it on.
Maleek?
I think we were connected to that theme because we wanted to give the judges, we wanted to still be playful. Like, I think that's what they loved so much about our first performance, that it was really different than the other houses. We gave them a theme, we gave them character, and we still wanted to keep giving them a theme and a character, to be playful, because ballroom doesn't have to be latex bodysuits and selling you sex all the time, And so we just wanted to be fun and have a good time on stage. Our goal was to make sure that they wanted to get up and party as well.
Maleek, you ended up getting really, really great feedback from the judges. They really kind of unanimously praised you. And even, I don't know if you heard this part, but even after you sort of left the stage, they were saying that like you were the reason that they wanted to see the house the next week. And I wanted to know it, like how that felt in that moment, if you just really like lived for disco in general, or what that meant for you.
I mean, it's kind of ironic because before every performance, I was very nervous. I can say that probably for, me and my entire house, like the normal jittery nerves. But before that performance, I was kind of more nervous than usual because I had to put on a character. And sometimes for me, that's a little hard. So when I did get, praise from the judges, it was a beautiful feeling. But also, I know that there were times that as a whole, we weren't getting those praises, and it kind of felt bittersweet.
Yeah. Jocelyn, I know this week it was not only sort of best dressed, but it was also we had to have one person give face, and you were talking about the importance of walking face. And so I wanted to hear a little bit about what was it like to finally have this sort of femme queen face moment for you.
Okay, so I mean, the last time I had walked face was back in the day. I was still a drag when I was under Octavia Saint Laurent, and I hadn't walked it ever since because femme queen face, in my opinion, and probably in some others, is one of the higher caliber categories of ballroom. When a girl walks femme queen face, it's like, you pretty much made it because that's like the top of the top when it comes to femme queens. So I haven't walked it in ballroom ever since. I needed to get some work done, and then I got work done, and then COVID happened. So I was never really able to showcase my new face, and I got to do that on the legendary stage.
You were talking about sort of how big femme queen face is, and this wasn't just femme queen face, but not too long before COVID started, right? Miyake Mugler had that big ball with face for, what was that, $10,000?
Yeah.
And the only people who were left at the end, right, were femme queens, right? That's who people came to see.
Yep. Not all the categories will you see. Like, you're not going to see realness for $10,000. Yeah.
I know that Maleek got a lot of that good feedback from the judges, and I was wondering if that impacted having Maleek do the redemption battle. You guys ended up in the bottom that week, and Maleek, I know you were chosen. I didn't know if that impacted that or if you guys already knew going into it that Maleek was going to be one of the go-tos for that.
We actually did know prior to us knowing whether or not we were going to be in the bottom. We said before that, this was a competition that, you were going to have to fight for your life in a sense. And what we felt is that we didn't want to keep sending the same person down. If we ended up in the bottom every week, we were going to fight for our life every week with a different member. So if that meant that every single one of us had to go down there, that was what was going to happen. So it was just Maleek's turn regardless.
Maleek, how was that moment for you? I loved your Vogue, but I just want to know, you were talking before about being nervous. Is it a different type of nervousness when you are, you're going to be freestyling, you're not putting on a character, or what was that moment like for you?
Well, yeah, I was nervous because, this is the make or break moment, whether my house could be going home or not. And so I felt a lot of pressure on me. Not that my house ever put pressure on me to feel it was all or nothing. It was either I was going to do it or not. I was received a lot of love from all my members. But, there is always that voice in the back of your head, okay, if you don't do this, you send your house home. If you don't win this battle, you send your house home. So there was a lot of little things inside of my head just kind of nagging at me and eating me away. I will say I definitely started off stronger than I thought I was going to. But towards the middle and end, I definitely was defeated. It wasn't my best battle, and it wasn't the best feeling in the world either.
Do you attribute that to something, or was it just sort of it just happened?
Yeah, I was getting in my head because first off, this for $100,000. So I was like, all right, bitch, you better do this. And then I'm looking at Becky because I am competing against Becky, and she's doing all this spectacular stuff. So I'm like, fuck, what am I going to be doing? What do I need to do? Because now I'm like, God damn it. I want to win and I want my house to stay. And so that's where I got in my head and I started doubting myself because I started looking at Becky. And that's kind of funny that the guest judge, he actually said that. He said, I saw you get in your head and I saw you look at her and doubt yourself. And so for me, that battle was kind of a lesson in a way to not stare at the next person next to you and just always keep your blinders on.
Yeah. So this week, Seven Deadly Sins Ball, you guys got greed. Before we get into the performance, let's talk about the theme because the judges were divided on whether or not it was giving greed. So I want to hear from you guys. What was it like to hear that from the judges, and what were you guys thinking about their feedback specifically around the theme itself?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel for that performance, what the people watching the show don't understand is that, we work really hard on these performances. It's not something that we come up with, right away. We usually have like 3-4 practices a day, and it's a lot of work. And for that specific performance, we really went in. We went hard. We were thinking of like character development, moving with intention. We really put our passion into that performance, and we knew that it was either going to be our night or not.
Yeah, it was a tough night, I think, because we really went in thinking like this was gonna be, a stellar performance. It looked to me and to all of us when we were in rehearsal and we looked at the recording, very cinematic. So we were just blown away by the scores and the critiques that we were getting, because it just kind of felt like this was gonna bring us back on top,
Yeah. You guys saw it as something that was going to, raise a profile in it. The judges didn't see that. Yeah. I would love to hear how you guys sort of felt about the scoring mechanism, because they changed it this year, right? Generally, in Ballroom mostly it's tens or chops. But there was also like sort of this season, there's a scoring aspect that each judge gives a score and then they tally them up. And I'd love to hear how you guys feel about that kind of aspect in a ballroom setting.
Well, when Ballroom first started, that is kind of how they did it. But then with time constraints and, how things can go when you're walking. You don't want to take too long, because, especially nowadays, it's like an attention span thing. It's like either you turned it in the first 5 seconds or you didn't. So the whole, scoring like that just kind of went out the window.
Having seen all the other performances, was there another house that you felt should have been in the bottom, either with you or instead of you? Or was there something that you guys saw that you didn't see sort of called out?
Wow. All right. Well, I'm just going to be honest here. So, in Ballroom, if you walk and you lose a wig, your shoes,
Yes.
something like that, usually it's a chop. And they don't
Right.
really care who you are. You could be the mother of a house. You could be a founder of a house. They don't really care. If you lose your shoes or lose your wig in the middle of you coming out for your tens, it's a chop. And, the people will see. I don't know how they edited it or whatever, but honestly, there were houses that were in the top that might have had, some things going on like that, losing shoes and all types of stuff. And I don't believe that, if you lose stuff in the middle of your performance like that, then it stops being so clean, and maybe they shouldn't have had, such high scores. That's all I'm gonna say.
I will tell you, it does make it into the edit that I saw. So that's clear. But I want to sort of pivot away from specifically the show, talk about the House of Milan specifically and in general. So I thought it'd be a great place to start with Jocelyn. Can you tell me a little bit about sort of how the House of Milan got started?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. So the House of Milan got started in 1987 by Eric Christian Bazar, who was one of our most well-known MCs of Ballroom. He actually inspired a lot of the MCs that you hear today to take the mic.
Mhm.
So the way he created it, or why he created it, was because he was from the House of Khan, and he felt that Khan at the time was dominating the ballroom scene in DC, and he wanted to kind of break away from that and kind of give them a house to rival with. Because I guess, they didn't have any rivals. So at the Grand Hyatt Hotel that he was staying at one point, he was just like going through a bunch of magazines. And on his journey looking into the magazines, he found an article that was talking about Milan from Milan, Italy, talking about the fashion capital and things like that. And when he saw that, he just was like, I have the house name. but the house didn't officially debut till 1988. So he came up with the house name and the concept that it was going to be a fashionable house and that it was going to be called the House of Milan in 1987. But we didn't officially debut till Pepper LaBeige's ball in Tracks Martin Luther King weekend in 1988.
The house in the origins, right, was known for fashion, and it still is known as being quite a stylish house.
It is. Actually, I think that's what draws people in, the fact that we just like to carry ourselves with a certain esteem, a certain air. We do like to dress nice. We feel like that is part of our, like what we bring to the table, that we know how to dress. We know how to pull off an effect. We're creative and we're fashionable. And that has carried itself out to this day.
Yeah. So how did each of you come to Ballroom? I'll start with Maleek and then I'll go back to you, Jocelyn.
Sure.
I took my first class at my college at the time, SUNY Purchase. And Jason, who was then Slim Ninja, he was a ninja at the time, he taught a workshop there. And then from that one workshop, I kind of fell in love with it. It was my first time wearing heels, first time voguing. So it kind of really spoke to me, and I wanted to learn more and take in more energy and more of the language and the vocabulary. So I reached out to him the next day and I said, hey, I really want to train. Can I train under you? And so from there, he's been training me. He's kind of been my mentor. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it wasn't until maybe about 3 years ago that I ran into Stanley Milan, who introduced me to the House of Milan.
And so was it always sort of voguing and the dancing aspect that got you into the community, and then I guess that sort of kept you around?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I definitely feel like me discovering Ballroom has helped me discover parts of myself that I don't feel like I would have unlocked if I wasn't in Ballroom and if I wasn't voguing, if I wasn't in a space where, it's the sense of community created for people who want to be accepted and want to live their lives openly and truthfully.
When you say sort of it helped you to explore different parts, is that like specific through voguing?
Yeah, through voguing. Because I started off doing New Way, and then I went into Vogue Femme and Runway. And so through those three, I feel like I've learned a lot about myself and just like how I like to move within voguing, how I like to move outside of voguing as I guess you can say professional dancer or a dancer in training. And just how I like to present myself within, like, it's so funny that Ma says fashion, because I feel like it wasn't until Ballroom that I started to explore and kind of experiment with my fashion choices.
Jocelyn, how did you come to Baltimore? I know you came before Maleek for sure.
Oh, yeah, like a whole 16 years before. Hope I didn't age myself by saying that. So yeah, no, I actually started Ballroom in 2003. And the way I started Ballroom is that I was growing up around the time where like the Village was a thing, going down to Christopher Street and hanging out on the pier and things like that. That was still a thing while I was growing up. It was on its way out, but for the most part, I did make the tail end of it. So growing up in the Village and hanging out in the Village, people were always talking about Ballroom. And one day, my friends just dragged me to a ball. I think it was the Legends Ball in 2003. And when I got to the ball, it was the first time that I had ever seen performance, specifically Femme Queen performance. And if I tell you that I was like completely in awe, I had never seen something like that. I was completely fascinated, and automatically I was like pulled in.
And so you sort of see that you're into it. Where does things go from there? Because did you ever walk performance?
So yes, I've walked performance throughout my ballroom career, very sporadically and stuff. But the way I came in was that I came in for Drag's Face and Drag's Realness originally. And because at that ball, I met Octavia St. Laurent, and we hit it off, and I just became a Manolo Blahnik after that.
Did you guys have, an intimate sort of, mother-daughter relationship or anything like that? Or was she just sort of an inspiration?
Yeah, so she was actually a pretty good house mother. She taught me certain things about walking face and things like that. Again, at that time, it was towards her, end of like her ballroom career and, everything like that. So like shortly after that, we kind of had fallen out and we hadn't heard from each other in a while. And then that's when I met Ross Infinity, and we ended up just going to the House of Infinity. And that's when I really started my realness career. Like I was really known for junior femme queen realness. Well, drags realness, then junior femme queen realness, and then finally femme queen realness.
So tell me about this junior femme queen realness category, because this is one that I have not heard of. Femme queen realness for sure, but I haven't heard of junior femme queen realness.
So around the time, when we were growing up walking realness, this was a time where if you were a drag queen and they didn't believe that you were really a drag queen, they would make you lift your shirt and lift your bra and make sure that you didn't have breasts underneath your shirt. Yeah, it was like that. So so around the time, they had us doing that a lot because they never really believed that we were drag queens. And then when we started taking hormones, what ended up happening was that we would sit down the girls that were like fully surged, like that had their breasts done, their noses done, all of this done. And it was just, Ballroom was in a weird place because they didn't really feel that it was fair for the younger girls that are just starting out to kind of go up against girls that were already been doing this for years. So they came up with a category just for us, and it was called Junior Femme Queen Realness.
Oh, wow.
It's always interesting how Ballroom changes things, sometimes for political reasons or sometimes for, sometimes it's inclusion, right? And so you start new categories because we now have a different understanding of people and who they are. But sometimes, like what you're explaining, right, is because it's politics. The people with the most power in the seat is like, I'm not about to lose this category, so we're going to make a new one for people so I don't have to lose.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's how it was back then. Now it's sometimes it's like less political and just more inclusive, like you said, because now they're coming up with categories that are like, non-binary runway, and non-binary performance, which I think is amazing. And I'm happy that the ballroom scene is showing growth that way.
Yeah, because it's interesting that you mentioned that because, as we talk about, terms like butch queen and femme queen, we don't think about them as binaries, but they are essentially, right? And so these categories, these new non-binary categories, I haven't seen them at any major balls, but I see them at sort of mini balls, encompass those people who neither identify as butch queens or femme queens or anything like that, which I do find to be this sort of interesting note of progress that we're seeing even within the scene. Maleek, we sort of talked a little bit before about sort of your pronouns, and I don't know if you have particular thoughts around sort of those categories and how people find themselves within them or if they don't.
I didn't know that they were having those categories. I haven't seen them yet, the non-binary categories. I think it opens the mindset of people who've been in ballroom already, and I think people who are just coming into ballroom, because, ballroom is a fully accepting space, so I think it is appropriate to make room and to kind of adjust and make space for other identities within ballroom. So I love the fact that they have these categories now and that they're starting to develop these categories, because I definitely know, for me, I don't know where I would fall. I do present as, non-binary. My pronouns are they, them. So I don't know, I see butch queen, but for me, I started off voguing, identifying as non-binary. So I always walked butch queen, vogue femme, or butch queen, runway. But now it's definitely interesting to hear, and I love hearing it because now I'm having not conversations, but I still have family members, chosen family members from the ballroom scene that'll say sis, or will say, oh, my brother, my house brother, or my house son, or something like that. And so it's how do I go about having that conversation where you can kind of be more sensitive to non-binary identifying folks, because we're in ballroom, and so the verbiage is usually girl, she, sis, my girlfriend, whatever. So it's kind of hard to kind of distinguish or break that down a little bit when it comes to the binary and non-binary. But I think it just comes to having more conversations in ballroom and not putting us in boxes, because we're already put in boxes in society.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because, I think that people from outside the scene have this sort of idea that sort of, and this isn't to shade ballroom, I clearly love ballroom, but that ballroom is this all-inclusive, all-encompassing, sort of perfect space. And the reality is that ballroom has to make its own changes just like every other part of society, right? And so, the names might be different, the binaries might be different, but there are still binaries, right? I'm sure you see this or saw this in realness, Jocelyn, right? there is an idea of what it means to be real, right? And what it means to, even be a femme queen, and what you need to look like if you're a femme queen. And so, it might not be the same rules as outside of the scene, but like, the scene does have its standards and its binaries that like they expect people to sort of fit in, at least from my experience.
Yeah, actually, what I explained to Maleek when I first met them was that I love where the world is right now because someone like Maleek can exist and be free. Because when I was growing up, it was all about making a choice. You couldn't just be a boy past a certain age wearing girl jeans and girl crop tops and stuff without getting your ass beat, you know? So we all at a certain age had to make a choice whether we were gonna man up and just start dressing in regular clothes, or were we gonna just follow our heart and become the women that we always thought we were. And nowadays you don't necessarily have to be forced into that decision, or maybe you could even take more time taking that decision, because obviously it's a world changing decision. So yeah, I mean, when I met Maleek, I don't know, it changed my way of thinking so much, because again, even with me being who I am, it took me some time to understand it myself and wrap my head around. So I could imagine people that, aren't in the community.
This actually brings up sort of my next question, which was, on the show, you are the mother of the house, but sort of in the scene, you are the New York City mother.
Mhm.
So I wanted you to, one, sort of give people a little bit of an explanation of, sort of like what that means in general. Some people might not know that there are various mothers on various levels within the community.
Okay, I'm glad that you asked that, because when watching season 1, people that weren't really in the know of Ballroom would think things like that. Like, that like Erica is like the mother of the House of Milan for like the whole world. Like they wouldn't really know that there may be a mother in the Netherlands and a mother in Florida and a mother. They don't know that, So
Yeah.
like, it's true, yes. So I am the mother of the House of Milan in New York City, and there are other mothers and fathers around the world.
And also, like, sort of like what you're saying, right? You can be a mother of a city, and then there's mothers of regions, and then there's like overall mothers, right? Like there's even levels within that. That's kind of like, even like an organizational or corporate structure where, there's an overall mother, there's a West Coast mother, and there might be an LA mother.
Mhm.
But all that said, right, like the more local mothers are generally the ones that are the most involved, I would assume, and from what I've seen, with their actual children, because they are the closest one, right? You have, how many ever kids you have in New York City?
About 100.
That's kind of crazy. So tell me about what that is like having, all these kids in the city, and what does that mean for you and your relationship to them?
Well, I mean, it's a big responsibility, because as the mother of the house, like, there's a lot that is up to me in terms of like keeping the house name alive, staying on top of the kids in terms of like being hands-on, making sure that, they have their studios, we have our meetings, if they need anything, if we're traveling, things, it's a lot, So it's like, I think that the relationship that I build with them is a special bond, because, it's not easy. Imagine being a mother and having 100 kids, like how you have to spread yourself so thin, and it's a lot of work. Like, I tell people, being a house mother is a 24/7 job. It's a lot of responsibility. It's not easy, but there's so many great things that you get out of it.
And there's, I think in Ballroom, the last I talked with one of my friends, they were saying that sort of like there's like 3 types of mothers, right? Particularly when you get into overalls, right? Like you have your working mothers that are doing a lot of the work that you're saying. You have your very sort of maternal like mothers that might be, more of like personal mothers and fathers, right? Where they're in the kids' lives, talk about emotional stuff. And then you have your sort of like real working mothers doing that organizational work. And I was just wondering about like, what is your approach?
Oh, you
I don't
missed
know if
one. When we were talking about it, you said that then there's the mother that wants to come
might
out
have-
when she wants to come
Yeah,
out.
I might have forgot the trophy mother, which is the girls that they don't really want to be involved with the kids, but when you need her to come show up at a ball, she is there. She looks
Right.
good. She's going to take a trophy. You know what I mean? Like, y'all know the girls I'm talking about. Like, they're not trying to be in the mix with everybody, but like when you need somebody to be the face of this house and to keep the reputation alive, they are there, which is a very, you need that as well, right? it's a very different type of mother than some of the other types of mothers.
Absolutely. I mean, I like that you've done your homework. For you to know that there's even variations of different house parents definitely means that you're knowledgeable. So I love that. And to answer your question, I want to say, it's funny because Maleek could answer that question for me. I don't even have to answer it, honestly.
I would definitely say that she is the working mother and the personal mother. I think, honestly, last comes the trophy mother, to be quite honest, because I feel like most and foremost, she wants to make sure that we're good mentally, physically, financially. Like, I've gotten to know my house mom so much better working with Legendary. And it's been crazy because, like, when I first met Joss, like, she's like, you're part of the family now. I'm your mother. If you need anything, just let me know. Like, we got you. Like, and I feel like, it's unfortunate to say this, but I don't feel like a lot of houses in other chapters have a mother like that is like so welcoming off the bat, who genuinely care about how you're doing, will say, come to this ball with me. I'm judging it. We're going to sit at the table together. Like, just we've had our talks, like, and Ma, we had our talks in the hotel, just getting very personal. And she's been through so much, and she's so strong. Like, and never, never, never do I not see this woman without a smile on her face.
This actually brings up this other thing, right? That, like, even within Ballroom, we have so many parents, right? Like, you might have your house mother, you have, the overall mother, all that stuff. But then you also might have your personal parents, right? So, like, Maleek, I don't know if Slim is just a mentor to you, but, like, Slim might be your personal gay father, or, people might have that. And I don't know if either one of you had those in your lives and in your careers, because I also know for, like, femme queens that can be very important because they can provide education on, like, how you navigate various things. I didn't know if you guys would be open to chatting a little bit about sort of those relationships.
So Slim is my gay father. He's my mentor. He's my friend. He's everything. And like, yeah, so he's been there for me through a lot. And then I think from there, Stan, he is, for me, I know he's not the father of the house, but I feel like that's how I kind of formed that relationship to him before knowing his history with the house. And he's the one that brought me into Vogue. So for me, he's much so a father figure. And then I have Joss, who's my house mother. And I think I have a pretty good relationship with all three of these figures in my life. I think they've definitely opened my eyes and shaped my perspective of Ballroom and what Ballroom is and what it can be and where it can go.
I'm going to turn to you in a second, Jocelyn, but has it helped you outside of the scene as well, just in life and in relationship to who you are and your identity, or even other things?
Yes, definitely. Because there have been moments where I've questioned who I am, like, and how I want to identify and how I want to present myself. And if it's okay for me to present myself this way, will there be backlash, which that comes with anything that you do. There will always be some type of backlash, no matter whether it's on a 20% scale or a 70% scale. And that's kind of the price of just being yourself, no matter what you are presenting yourself as. So I definitely feel like having these three relationships in my life have shaped me outside of Ballroom, because I definitely feel like voguing and Ballroom is a part of me, but it's not who I am. So, of course, I would want these relationships that I have to also cultivate the person outside of the dance floor.
And Jocelyn, can you talk to me a little bit about sort of your relationships?
Sure. Well, my gay father, he passed away. He was the late Tony Milan. He was everything to me, honestly. Like, that man really changed so many perspectives for me, because when I met him, I was at a primal point in my transition. I had just started taking hormones, trying to get to know who I really was. I'm becoming a woman. My body is changing. I'm in Ballroom now. Now I'm taking it more serious than ever. He really did help me grow into the woman that I became today. So he was my gay father and house father at one point, and he taught me a lot. He taught me about Ballroom. He even taught me about real life. Like, and honestly, I could even say that, part of being a house parent is not always just about walking balls or, traveling and stuff like that. No, it's also about, well, to me, being there for your kids in real life. Because again, Ballroom is something that costs, getting these creative outfits made for you or making them yourself and stuff doesn't come for free. Traveling to these balls that are all over the world is not for free. So it's like you need to have something to like come back home to, like an education, a job, something like that. And that was something that he instilled in me, that he was like, okay, so you're a woman now. And what? Being a woman is not a career. He's like, so are you going to get a job? Are you going to go to college? What are you going to do? Because being a girl is not a job. So he say things like that. And I think that that's important to have in a role model or house parent figure or something like that. Like, yeah, there's some that don't want to be involved in the kids, but the ones that do, they know what I'm talking about.
So I want to sort of bring it back to Legendary, but coming into the competition, seeing all the other houses, what were you guys' thoughts on the rest of the competition?
The competition was thick. This season, you know, HBO Max and Legendary gave you the girls.
The girls.
The girls. Talent was there. Like, everybody on the show were super talented, beautiful. We knew that it was not going to be easy from day one.
Yeah. What did you think, Maleek?
I definitely was trying to study everyone that I knew that was coming because I knew that they were not coming to play at all. I was like, what the fuck? Because, you know, after a while, you notice the houses that are there, and then you notice, like, who is actually there. And I'm like, oh, okay. Let me go in my room and stretch a little bit. Let me go work on my catwalk or something, my runway, because this is really not a game. And I really do feel like they really brought the girls of the girls out, and everyone was just so talented. I think what I loved so much is about which was our last night, because, you know, when you think of a competition, it can be, you can think like, you know, everyone is just very like just trying to get their own, and that's it. But the last night that, you know, House of Milan was there, we really got to bond with some of the other house members and really got to see like their personalities outside of the competition. And it was just a joy to see and a joy to hang out with a few of them and just like get to know them and know that like these are people. It's not just people that you're in competition with, like, you know?
Yeah. So we did the nice thing. It's really stacked cast, but I'm also interested in knowing, having seen the houses that are left, who you guys think is going home next.
Well, first of all, let's just say, I mean, because I don't think we made mention of it. Speaking of, you know, like the cast in general, this season, and I feel like it's going to go down in history as the season of the Femme Queens, because for the first time they had a good, you know, 2 handfuls of Femme Queens on the show. Because in the first season, you didn't really see a lot of, you know, the female figures. And we're a big part of Ballroom history.
Right.
And, you know, like you said earlier, you know, half the time when the girls come to the balls, they come to see the Femme Queens, you know? So, so this season, the cast, you know, was filled with great Femme Queens. You know, it's going to be Femme Queen power this season. But to answer your question, who we thought that maybe would be going home after us,
I don't know. I feel like if you think about it, who has been consistently in the bottom is also Icon.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel like if they are in the bottom again this next time, that they will be going home, because, you know, you kind of have to step it up and you kind of have to pick yourself up somehow.
Yeah, it's sort of one of those things, right? Like, if you've done it, it's sort of like the inertia type of thing, right?
Right.
Keep being in the bottom, unless you do something that just like completely turns it around, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, but I'd love to also hear the flip side. Is there someone from the remaining teams that you guys are really, really excited about to see what they have coming next?
I'm excited for Orichi. I definitely feel like, you know, Amari winning that last battle was telling them, like, he was telling the judges, like, I am not here to play. Like, I am about this, and you're going to see me, and you're going to catch these steps. And I'm excited to see where they go throughout the rest of the show. But also, I do feel like, just with how the judges were giving their scores this season, I really do feel like it can be a toss-up. Like, I feel like it's just so unpredictable.
Yeah. Jocelyn, do you have one?
Well, yes. I mean, I was going to say the House of Orichi as well, because I also think that Omari and his kids are super talented, and, you know, you never know what they're going to come up with. But because Maleek already said Orichi, I'm actually going to say the House of Mugler, only because Arturo, as a house parent, he grew up, you know, like around me. Like, we grew up around the same time in Ballroom. And as a house parent, he's a strong house parent. He really does care about his kids. He's talented, you know. He works on his own music, own choreography, and his team alone, you know. I also grew up with Prince. You know, I've known Tati since she was really young. So it's like, their team is strong.
Yeah, he's also like a really well-known choreographer, so I think he really has the choreography aspect of it in the bag.
both of the people you guys just mentioned, right? Omari is a choreographer as well, not only within Ballroom, but like he choreographs outside of the scene. And like he did that show, I believe, at the Guggenheim. And then, Arturo, 2 years ago, she put on that Vogue showcase that was amazing, but she choreographs all the time. And so, yeah, they're both certainly teams to keep an eye out for because, most of Ballroom might not be choreography, but they know how to blend the two out of everybody. So
the show is about ballroom, but it's also solely based on the choreography as well.
Yeah.
So like that's what we also have to think about because that's what the judges are looking at, the choreography and the sequence of steps and what you put them in. And so I feel like if you take it there, those two houses, Mugler and Orici, are definitely strong competitors.
Thank you guys so much. I cannot wait till I see you out at balls. I will see you at OTA whenever they come back, Maleek, and hopefully, Jocelyn, I will see you as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yes, it was our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Howdy.
Many, many, many thanks to the ever-working mother, Jocelyn Milan, and the disco dancer of my personal dreams, Maleek Milan. You guys may be gone, but you'll never be forgotten. Before we go, I'd like to introduce a new segment called the official let-out moment of the episode. Let me be clear. This is not meant to be objective. This is the best moment of the episode, according to me, Mikelle Street. Something that I'm going to be talking about and tweeting about for days to come. You can fight with me on Twitter about it, but I'm going to have my moment. So in the spirit of showing you the type of person that I am, this week's let-out moment has to go to the chaos. If we're being honest, I almost gave it to Megan and Laomi, screaming their way through the Miyake Mugler performance, but when the judges started fighting, I was the one screaming. In season 1, Deshaun once told the panel that they were there to judge the houses and not each other, and honestly, he needed that on repeat for the entire episode. This moment in particular, between Law and Jamila, really wore me out. For context, all the judges were giving scores of 7 and 6, and then this happened. Enjoy, and I'll see you next week.
I'm giving you a 9 because I believe in you.
Cause what?
I'm sorry, you gotta justify that 9. I don't see it. I just feel like your 9 was like a GoFundMe.
Damn, bitch.
I stand by my choice.
The Let Out is produced by HBO Max in partnership with Spoke Media. Make sure to stream episodes of Legendary and The Let Out on HBO Max. And tell us all your thoughts about the departure of the House of Milan over at Legendary Max on Instagram. I'm your host, Mikelle Street, and you can find me at Mikelle Street on Instagram. For Spoke Media, our producer is Ariel Mejia with help from Gibran Mendez, Alicia Force, Brigham Mosley, Janielle Kastner, and myself. Original music and sound design by Evan Arnett. Special thanks to Clay Kim. Executive producers are Aaliyah Tavakolian and Keith Reynolds. See you next time.